Alright, so with the introduction of the Blue Eye Structure deck, we're going to, at my locals, we're going to allow for our speed duel tournaments. We'll probably have to tweak the list eventually. There's going to be like a little how-to guide on how to utilize the new zones we'll have to introduce, how to do the new summon mechanics. Um, a helpful tool that all players use is these things called field centers. You can get them in almost every Yu-Gi-Oh! Sanctioned event, like a release event, celebration stuff, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Day. And everyone's got a bunch of them. Your local shop may have some available to you. And some people just use Pokemon cards or other stuff like that, and it goes right in the middle of the middle zone. So, with the introduction of Link monsters, we get two new additional zones. In Advanced Yu-Gi-Oh, it goes in between the second and fourth zones, but for speed, it'll be our 1 and 3. And the columns matter, but we'll get to that part soon enough. But basically, this is called your extra monster zone, and you can summon your extra deck monsters in these zones. You may only control a monster in one of the zones. So you may slap a monster, any extra deck monster, either here or here, when you summon it from the extra deck only. So let's get into it. Based on some of the mechanics, what I think is easiest to understand to the hardest to understand. So we got a bunch of new fusion monsters. This is the easiest one we have. We already get it, except there's funny new ways to fusion summon. I'm not going to go over that too much because this is about the same thing. You need a spell card, a list of materials to go into these monsters. And you meet the conditions, you do it. So they're pretty easy in my opinion. The next hardest one is called an Xyz monster, XYZ monster. The way you summon an XYZ monster is, they do not have levels. They have something called a rank. And it works the same as levels. So there's 8 black stars as opposed to 8 yellow or orange stars on a normal Yu-Gi-Oh card. So that's a level and that is rank. You summon the monsters by completing the conditions listed on the card. Indigo Eye's Silver Dragon requires 2 level 8 dragon monsters. So what you do is you'll have 2 level 8 dragon monsters in the field. You will overlay them to stack Indigo Eyes on any zone you wish, including the extra monster zone. So I'll put it here for now, though. These materials are not technically on the field anymore. So, you can't fissure it off the field. It's not in the graveyard. It's not in the banishment. It's in its own weird zone. Imagine it's like bullets in its gun. And the anime has those little circly effects around the monster. And typically, they're, for Xyz, it is the number of times you can use the effect or like a cost. So once they're gone, the effect of the monster is basically over. The next summoning mechanic we're going to go over is Synchro. This is where we should be in Speed Duels, in my opinion, in the 5Ds era. So, with Synchro, it introduces a new type of monster called Tuner. So it's basically all the Blue Eyes people, both of the eggs, and 2 of our hand traps. These are all the tuners in the deck. And you're going to need these the same way you need the fusion materials, how they're listed. So for synchros, they'll say the following. You need 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner normal monsters for Azure Eyes. This one is level 9. The way you can perform a synchro summon is you use a level 1 tuner in this example, and level 8 Blue Eyes White Dragon. Synchros, you add up the levels, as opposed to Xyz where you just kind of compare and match them. So you put these both in the discard pot in the graveyard, and you can summon your synchro monster to any zone, including one of the extra monster zones. This one is pretty easy to me. It can be kind of complicated, especially with Blue Eye Spirit. It'll let you cheat out another monster, but it's you just read. It's like the fusion stuff where you read the materials listed right underneath the type of the monster. 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-blue eyes, and this one is 2 plus tuners plus 1 non-tuner blue eyes. I'll go back a second then. almost all synchros require one tuner plus non-tuners. It is very uncommon for a monster to require, or to be able to even go, 2 tuners plus a non-tuner, unless it specifically states otherwise on the card. The last extra deck mechanic is called a Link Summon. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. If you haven't played in a long time, this is how the game basically works anymore. It's the same way how the Fusion and Synchros work, where you just read what the card says. 1 level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster monster. So, here's level 1 spellcaster. I'll send them to the discard pile. It works a lot like Synchros, where you just throw them in the graveyard and they go to the field. These have to go to the extra monster zone. Another thing that's an important feature is the arrows on your Link monsters. This one has a down left, this one has double down diagonals. So, what that means is later on, if this monster is here, you can only Link Summon to a zone that it's currently pointing to. You cannot attempt to Link Summon in the other extra monster zone, because that is basically the other players now. Once you occupy it, it's basically the other players. But for him, since he's pointing down to the left, it allows me to summon to the center column. Conversely, if he's over here, and I want to try and Link Summon again, I cannot, because there's no zone over here in Speed, which I think is very interesting for Speed. Another thing to mention is you cannot Link Summon into monsters that are already themselves normally. But this one needs a level, so that's not an issue for him. This one needs 2 dragon monsters. Another interesting thing about Link monsters. So say we have him on the field. Let's have a Blue Eyes again. And say we want to link into Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. This will count as 1 monster. This will count as 1 monster. And then we'll be able to put it back into either zone. So by completing a Link Summon of a monster currently in an extra monster zone, you may place the new one in either zone also. And then for another interesting thing about Link Summoning in general is that their Link rating... Well, first of all, let's go back. These things are way interesting. Link monsters don't have defense points, which means they cannot be flipped to face-down defense. Which means you cannot Floodgate Trap hold them, you cannot Book of Moon them. It makes them very hard to deal with in like older Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So they don't have level or rank. They have the Link rating, which is in the corner, which is equal to the number of arrows that have pointing around them. When you're playing an advanced Yu-Gi-Oh, you'll actually be able to add based on the Link rating it currently has. So if I have a Link 2 and a Link 1, I can add them together to summon a Link 3, as long as the Link requirements are 2 monsters, 2 plus monsters. But for Speed, given the fact these are the only 2 Link monsters we will have currently, that's not really an issue so much. But another thing is, if I had 2 of these in the field, so if I have 1 here in the extra zone, and I summoned 1 here in the middle zone, I could then Link Summon to either zone again. Because, like I said, once you clear this monster off, it's fine. That also being said, say if I have a Link monster here, I summon a Link monster here, I remove him off the field, or he gets destroyed or whatever, you want to Link Summon again, and say you want to Link here, that is perfectly legal. The only thing that matters is you cannot attempt to summon to a zone they're not pointing to, but as long as one of these is open, you may summon to either one of them. I hope that helps, and good luck.